Hi, welcome to this webinar on cell salts or tissue salts or Schussler salts. They have different names, as we will see. For those who don't know me, my name is Giovanna Franklin. I'm an international homeopath, and the idea of this webinar, the reason why I wanted to do this is because cell salts are one of those tools that once you have learned how to use, you can use for yourself, for home prescribing, self-prescribing. There are absolutely no dangers of side effects or aggravations or proving with these remedies. And they are incredibly versatile. They're incredibly useful for everyday ailments. And so, first of all, what are they called? Because they have different names. So they are called cell salts or tissue salts, or, as I said, Schussler salts. The doctor who discovered these remedies was Dr. Schussler, who was a German doctor. And he was living during the 19th century. And so he was a contemporary of Samuel Hahnemann, the founder of homeopathy, as you know. And so he must have been familiar with homeopathy. Being a doctor and a pathologist, he was also familiar with, obviously, the human body. And he noticed that once a dead body was cremated, he could see that there were 12 essential minerals that could be identified from the body's ashes. And he concluded that these 12 essential minerals are indeed essential. And furthermore, after his research, he realized that the body was more likely to absorb these essential minerals if they were administered in nano particles rather than as supplements. So we are all used to taking supplements, vitamin C and minerals and vitamins in capsules, and there is a weight, there's certain dosage, milligrams, and so on. And some people and some doctors actually argue that the body will not actually absorb all these supplements, and some doctors argue that taking supplements and minerals is indeed even useless, which is not something that I agree with. But I do agree that a vast amount of whatever we take in terms of multivitamins and minerals and so on actually gets expelled by the body because it's either too much or it's not really compatible or it's not easily absorbed by our body. Now, Schussler, as I said, he was familiar with the work of Samuel Hahnemann, and so he was familiar with the concept of the minimum dose, which is one of the principles of homeopathy, which basically means that less is more. And he concluded that nanoparticles would be much more easily absorbed by the body. So what we're going to do today is go through these cell salts, and there's 12 of them. So it's not as many as homeopathic remedies. And this is another reason why I think that once you learn how to use this remedy, because the number is fairly limited, it's not a vast amount of remedies. When you think that in homeopathy, we have thousands and thousands of different remedies, and there is no way that you can learn them all. There's always new ones that come along, and it does take a few years to become a homeopathic practitioner, whereas if you have a good book or a good basic understanding of cell salts, you can pretty much use them by yourself, for your family, and so on. The other thing is that cell salts are very easily available at least at the moment, much more easily available than homeopathic remedies. If you go to health stores in the UK, for example, we have the big health store, Holland & Barrett, which is a national chain, and they will carry cell salts, but they will not carry homeopathic remedies, even though, at least in principle, cell salts are made and produced with the same principle as homeopathic remedies. They are highly diluted substances. My personal theory is that cell salts or tissue salts are more easily understood and therefore accepted in general by the public compared to homeopathic remedies, in the sense that cell salts look and in a way do what other supplements and mineral supplements might do, even though, as we will see, they are much more versatile and, I would say, more effective. And from that point of view, for that reason, they're probably more easily marketable. They're more easy. They are easier to market compared to homeopathic remedies. But that's my personal theory. And also the name cell salts or tissue salts, it has that kind of name that you, even if you don't know what they are, you'll probably recognize vaguely, oh yes, they're salts, they're minerals. Yeah, I kind of know what they are and what they can do. Whereas homeopathy, some people don't even know what does homeopathy mean. It's such a awkward word sometimes. I think Hahnemann could have used a different name, but okay, never mind. So these minerals, these 12 minerals, as I say, they are the essential minerals that help our body function. But these are also minerals that are present pretty much everywhere, in the soil, in the food that we eat, in the fruit, in the vegetables, in the animals and the meat that we eat. And so they can also be obtained through proper diet and nutrition. However, like everything else, sometimes what we get from our diet in terms of vitamins or minerals and so on is not enough, and we have deficiencies in our bodies, and these deficiencies can cause some health issues, and this is when we will take tissue salts. So in terms of what they are, so they are they homeopathic remedies? They are, yes, I would say they are homeopathic. Why do I say that? Because they are highly diluted substances. They come in potencies, and the potencies that these remedies come in are in the X potencies, which means they are fairly low in potencies. And in case you're not familiar with potencies and what they mean and what they look like, so in general, homeopathic remedies are highly diluted substances. When you buy a remedy, and in this case a cell salt, you will find that it has a number on the bottle just beside the name, and a letter. And so you will find it can be a 3X or a 6X or a 9X or a 12X. So the number, let's start from the letter. The letter X is a Roman numeral, which means 10. And that relates to the dilution ratio, which means that the remedy is made with 1 part of the original substance and 10 parts of inert substance, like sugar of milk or sucrose. The number relates to the repetition of this process, the repetition of the dilution. So if you have 1 part of calcaria carbonica and 10 parts of sucrose, then you will have your 1x. You repeat the same process 3 times, you will have 3x. You repeat it 6 times, you will have a 6x, and so on and so on. So in homeopathy, the more you, the number of times that you make this process, that you repeat this process, means that you're going to increase the potency, the strength of the substance. Now, up until 12C, we say that there is still, you can still find molecules of the original substance. In other words, in homeopathy, most remedies from 30C upwards, and C is the letter that stands for 100, the dilution. So it's even much more diluted than the X potencies. So the more you dilute a substance to the point where you won't find not even 1 molecule of the original substance, but the more you do that, the higher you dilute a substance, the more powerful that remedy will be. The more healing properties, the bigger the healing properties, the wider the applications of that remedy will be, which is completely counterintuitive when we think about what we're actually used to with Western medicine, where more is more. And if you dilute something, we just think, well, that's not going to do anything. And that's not the case with homeopathy. So, so all this to say that cell salts, because the dilution is pretty low in X potency, so in 10th dilutions, proportion of dilution, you will still find nano doses, nanoparticles of the original substance. And that is exactly how Dr. Schussler meant it when he said that the body will absorb these minerals when they are taken in nano doses rather than macro doses, which is what we typically take when we take capsules and tablets and so on. Another reason why cell salts are so much more easier to learn and to use than homeopathic remedies is that they're incredibly flexible. They can be taken multiple times daily. They can be taken in combinations, and we will see what kind of combinations can work. You can take all of them, all of the 12 cell salts together, and indeed they are sold together in some bottles. They have the combination, like Bioplasma, for example. That's a brand that sells bottles with a combination of all the 12 cell salts, and it's absolutely fine. They can be taken dry. They usually come in powdery small tablets. They can be taken, they can be diluted, they can be dissolved in water. They can be crushed and mixed in a cream, for example, and applied topically, and we will see that in some cases that's very useful. So they are incredibly versatile, and as I say, they do not cause any aggravations, unlike homeopathic remedies, which is why you need to consult a homeopath, preferably, particularly if you're dealing with a chronic condition or if you're taking high potencies of remedies. But in the case of cell salts remedy, there is absolutely no danger of that. There is no proven you cannot overdose with cell salts. Okay, so they are absolutely safe there. Homeopathy is safe for everybody at any age. You do need guidance from a professional homeopath, but cell salts, like I said, once you learn how they work and what they do, you're good to go and you can pretty much use them by yourself. So it's a really powerful tool that I think everybody should know. So, okay, so we talked about the 12. So finally, what are these 12 minerals? Okay, so I'm going to go in order of numbers because each cell salt has a number, and sometimes when you buy them, you will find there is the number only without the name. And so it is important to learn what the numbers are, what they the corresponding name. And so we're going to go one by one and see what they do and what they're used for. Okay, so the first one is Calcarea fluorata, number 1. Calcarea fluorata, and again, like all homeopathic remedies, all the names are Latin names. So Calcarea fluorata is calcium fluoride. And this type of mineral is found particularly in our connective tissues. So all the bones and everything that surrounds the bones, the part of the skin, blood vessels, everything that pertains to the connective system. And the application of Calcarea fluorata is really to maintain the elasticity of the tissues. Everywhere where the tissue hardens and causes pain or causes stiffness, this is where you can use calcium fluoride. One of the main and most common ways of using calcium fluoride is for dental health, and particularly for children who are prone to cavities, for example, back pain, slow metabolism. I have used Calcarea fluorata together with Calcarea phosphorica, which is calcium phosphate, for dental health in children. This is when, for example, I had a young patient. He was a 7-year-old, and he was really prone to cavities. He was doing all the things, all the brushing and no soda and no sugar, but he was still getting a lot of cavities. And the dentist wanted to put a crown, and his mother was really against it. So we did a 3-month tissue salt treatment, and the cavities actually went back to normal. So the teeth were healed and strengthened. Calcarea fluorata is very good for the enamel of the teeth, for example. So there are individuals, children in particular, who lose enamel very easily. The teeth can be perfectly healthy, but they don't look very good. The enamel is not there. And Calcarea fluorata can be really, really useful for that. The tissue that forms veins and blood vessels, and so issues like varicose veins and hemorrhoids. And this is when you can, for example, in the case of hemorrhoids, you can actually crush the pellets of the remedy, mix them with a neutral cream, an arnica cream, for example, or calendula cream, and you can apply that cream topically. So that will be soothing for the external part, but it will also be healing for the hemorrhoids themselves. So dry skin, chapped lips or hands and fingers in winter, for example. anything to do with skin, hardening of the skin, particularly, like I said, in winter, if you suffer from chapped hands, when the skin gets hard and red and rough, that can be a very, very good remedy to use. Now, all these cell salts, all 12 cell salts, can also be found as homeopathic remedies in much higher potencies. And in higher potencies, they do more, let's say. They can be applied for a wider range of symptoms. So why would you use cell salts rather than higher potencies of homeopathic remedies, for example? Because as we will see, we can also use cell salts for some chronic issues. So when would you do that and deal with that by yourself rather than see a homeopath? So my answer to that is that if you are otherwise really healthy, as in you don't have any underlying health issues, but you have something that can be chronic or occasionally, or you have a susceptibility that it flares up every now and then. But otherwise, you're actually fine, you're healthy at the core. This is when I would use cell salts rather than go to a homeopath for constitutional treatment, let's say. Because, you know, if you have, for example, this dental issue, you have a child who is prone to cavities, but other than that, is perfectly fine, really healthy. There's nothing else that's going on, either emotionally or physically. Then I would say there is not much need. I would go for the cell salts first. That's what I'm saying. And then if that doesn't work, then I would consult a homeopath. But I would be quite happy to say, just go with the cell salts to begin with and see how it goes. Now, how long for? That really depends on how intense the symptoms are. For example, like I said, that patient with the cavities, that was a 3-month treatment. So it's not an immediate reaction. I wouldn't expect, you know, cavities to magically disappear in a couple of days. But depending on the intensity of the symptoms, you can expect results, weeks or months. It really depends, like I say, on what it is that you are dealing with. Number 2, the second cell salt is calcarea phosphorica, which is calcium phosphate. And this is one of the salts, mineral salts, that can be found most often in our bodies. And it's because it's a cell builder mainly. And it also serves as immune system booster. So we're talking about the skeleton, especially. So again, children, growing pains in children, the shins, for example, dental health, as I mentioned, calcarea phosphoric and calcarea fluorata together for dental health, eye health, pink eye, conjunctivitis, sensitivity to light, pain behind the eyes, blood circulation, tendency to cold hands and feet, numbness, you know, that sensation of pins and needles, digestion issues, acid reflux, bloating after eating, baby colics. I have used this remedy a lot for babies, for baby colics, when the baby refuses to feed. And it can be given to babies in liquid form, dissolving the tablets in water. And when it comes to babies, I always say even a couple of drops, if the baby is not drinking water yet, even a couple of drops just touching the lips, that's enough. That's a dose. Pregnancy, calc phos is a good help for the development of the baby in the womb. And it's also a good remedy for stress. Inability to focus, students working towards an exam. So this is one of the remedies together with Califos, which we will see. That's a very good remedy for students or people who work late, who work many hours a day. And as a result, you know, you get mental fatigue and you start forgetting things and so on. Number 3 is calcarea sulfurica, which is calcium sulfate. And it's also called plaster of Paris. And it is found in our blood and connective tissue. And it is a great cleanser and purifier. So skin, for example, eczema, and again, eczema, acne, these are chronic conditions. So again, I would say if there is nothing else going on health-wise with you, do go ahead and try a cell salt like calcarea sulfurica before going or seeing a homeopath. Infections, general infections, where there is discharge, like pus, like ear infections, for example, or gum disease. Digestive system, calcarea sulfuric is good in case of salt cravings, which can actually be an indication of lack of this mineral. It's good for stomach ulcers, and in cases of, you know, balances out your appetite. If you have cravings, or if you don't have appetite, like children who don't want to eat, for example. It's a good remedy for constipation and diarrhea. And it can also support, if you're doing a detox protocol, you can take calc sulf as a support, a remedy to help flush out the toxin, because it also has a supporting role for the liver. Okay. Number 4 is a ferrum phos. And this is the one of the main components of our blood, red blood cells. And one of the first remedies to think of in cases of anemia or tiredness, or people who have a tendency to nosebleeds, and dizziness, headaches. It's one of the remedies to think about, and the first onset of the cold, the flu, when you start feeling kind of tired and slightly feverish, but not quite full-blown flu. First stages of infections, eye inflammation, like bloodshot eyes, or grittiness in the eyes, teething babies in cases of swollen gums, inflamed gums, morning sickness in pregnancy, heart palpitations. I don't know if you remember, obviously none of us was alive at the time, but in the 19th century, when ladies apparently used to faint a lot and people would smell under the noses, that was ferrum phos in the Victorian era. That was one of the ingredients of the smelling salt to revive. In menopause, when you have the symptoms of heart palpitations, hot flashes, again, menopause can have lots and lots of different symptoms. If it is a complex case or if the symptoms are very severe, do go and see a homeopath. But again, if it is an occasional occurrence, or if it's not very severe, it's just annoying, you can definitely start with cell salts. Cystitis at the first hint of cystitis, high blood pressure, and you can use ferrum phos together with califos, which we will see. So now we move on to the kali, what we call the kali, and the kaliums are potassium. Okay, so number 5 is kali muriaticum, which is potassium chloride, which is a decongestant and lymph purifier. It is combined with albumin in our body, and it forms a substance called fibrin, which is part of every single cell in our bodies, with the exception of bones. So it is pretty much everywhere. So ailments like dandruff. I don't think anybody would go to the homeopath just for dandruff, unless it was crazy severe. But it's one of those things that you don't really want, or it's kind of annoying to have. And so if you have white, flaky scalp, yeah, Calimure, a few weeks of taking Calimure can actually resolve this problem. Congestion of ear, nose, and throat, postnasal drip, sinus congestion can be relieved by Calimure, sometimes ear blocked, you know, when you have the cold and you've been through the cold and the flu, but your ears are still blocked. You can take Calimure, or they're crackling. They have that kind of crackling sound. And you've already done all the ear candles, and you've already taken drops, and they're still crackling and they're still blocked. You can take Calimure for that. Congested or overburdened liver, particularly if you're eating too much sugar or carbs, and your liver is sluggish. So your metabolism is low and sluggish. Calimure can help speed up the metabolism because it does have an affinity with the liver, and it can help the liver detox faster. It's also good for water retention. In general, remedies that have chloride, so Natmure or Calimure, they deal very well with water retention, particularly during your menstrual cycle, when you feel bloated, but also in pregnancy, for example, when you are bloated, your ankles, your joints, your legs, and so on. Emotional state, so Calimure, like I said, the chloride in it, it's very similar to the remedy Natmure, Natrum muriaticum, and so it also helps on the emotional level for people who find it hard to let go of the past. And it's also interesting to note that cell salts are very practical remedies for physical ailments, but they do also work on the emotional level. And in general, you do have this effect when you potentize, when you dilute a substance and potentize it. Basically, when a substance goes through the homeopathic process of making remedies, the range of applications, of symptoms, transcends the physical. It goes into the emotional, into the mental as well, which is something that supplements cannot do, for example. They can either do the physical or the mental, emotional, but not everything. Calimere is one of the most versatile of the cell salts, and it can be used in combination with any of them. And that's another thing. So like I said, they're incredibly versatile and incredibly flexible. So there is no counterindication. In homeopathy, sometimes you find that some remedies antidote other remedies, or they don't work well if you use them, if you put them together with other remedies. And this does not happen in cell salts. And so you can mix and match any way you like. You don't need to worry about that aspect either. Number 6 is caliphosphoricum, which is potassium phosphate, which is particularly found in our brain and in our nerves. So it's a very good nerve tonic, and it works particularly well on the mental, emotional state. It's like a natural tranquilizer, and so it works for insomnia. If you're not sleeping because you're stressed out, because you're worried about anything, again, think about you're a student before an exam, you can't sleep, you find it hard to relax. It also helps in cases of hyperactivity, along with other remedies. So if you are irritable as well, if you have some mild anxiety, in acute cases of anxiety, you can take it every 10 minutes. If you feel like you have a panic attack coming on and you don't have anything else to hand, and of course, in these cases, if you are subject to panic attacks or chronic anxiety, do consult a homeopath or any therapist. But if you don't have anything else and you only have your cell salts, at least you know what to take if you are in a tight spot. Okay. Headaches, really acute headaches, with blinding pain, dizziness. You cannot stand the light. You have to go into a dark room. In digestive system, in cases of issues with digestive system, because you're tired, again, you're stressed, and you know the way that you're tired, you need to keep going, and you think that if you eat, that will keep you awake, and you start eating. That happens to me a lot. I'm working late, and just to do something, just to keep myself awake, I just start eating. So particularly sugary food, because you want a quick boost of energy. So, you know, so you start to go to the chocolate. So caliphos instead of that. PMS, so before your menstrual cycle, if you take it together with magphos, which we will see, and ferrumphos, which we have already seen, it's very, very good in cases of premenstrual irritability, and also to deal with period cramps. Number 7 is kalisulforicum, which is potassium sulfate. And this is what regulates the amount of oxygen exchange in our cells, in our body, particularly the membrane tissues, in our nose and lungs. And so it's very useful in cases of respiratory infections. Eyes, for example, all the mucous membranes, eyes in cases of redness or swelling under the eyes, the crusty discharge that sometimes you can go through periods where you wake up and every morning you wake up with really crust around your eyes. Hair and nails, health, if you have an issue with falling hair, or hair that breaks easily, fragile, you know, split ends, nail fungal infections, particularly if you take it together with silica. Also very useful for loss of taste and smell, together with natmure and natsulf, for a few days, and you can take it up to 6 times a day. This was a massive issue. After having COVID, people went through it and got over it, but then the loss of smell and taste could last for months and months. And I had a lot of cases of that. And this is where Calisulf and Natmure can really help regain the sense of smell. Number 8 is Magnesia phosphorica, which is magnesium phosphate. And this is a wonderful remedy. It's like a natural painkiller, particularly in spasmodic pain and cramps. So muscles, because it is a natural antispasmodic, it's a muscle relaxant. So in any instances where you have muscle cramps or muscle spasm, it can be the back, it can be cramps during your period, it can be your calf muscles sometimes, or it can be after you've been exercising too hard. This is really wonderful. And MagPhos is also present in our blood, in the cells of our bones, teeth, and our brain. And in cases of acute pain, you can take it as often as every 10 minutes to calm the pain. As like I said, it's a natural painkiller. So neuralgia, particularly in the face. For example, if you've been to the dentist, or if you have toothache, and the pain is radiating and it's taking over your jaw, it's taking over your head and your face, MagPhos is a great remedy for that. It's good for your digestive system, colics, nausea, stomach cramps. Again, for example, in cases of food poisoning, when you have terrible stomach cramps, heartburn, and you can take it together with calc-phos, which we have already seen is a very good remedy for colics, like in baby colics, for example. And kidney stones as well. The pain from kidney stones is one of the worst. And so, yeah, MagPhos can definitely relieve the pain from that. Number 9 is Natrium muriaticum, which is one of the most common, the most used, the most useful remedies in general in homeopathy, which is sodium chloride. It's salt. It's literally table salt. And it's everywhere in our bodies. And its primary function is to balance the distribution of fluids in our body. So like I mentioned, water retention. So you need to balance out the quantity of fluids in our body. So lack of salt, I mean, we have in Western society, we have almost demonized salt because, yes, too much salt can cause hypertension. But then on the other hand, if you don't have salt at all, or if you have a deficiency of salt in your body, that is also a problem. And you cannot just compensate by adding salt to the food at that point. You need the right form of salt in the right quantity so that the body can absorb it. So Natmure is a great remedy for migraines, for chronic migraines. And again, sometimes you may need a higher potency of Natmure, not just the X potency of the cell salts. But headaches that are caused by too much sun, for example, if it's a one-off, you've been staying out in the sun, caused by dehydration, basically. So yeah, that Natmure is a great cell salt to take. Runny nose, itchy eyes caused by allergies. If arsenicum album doesn't help, arsenicum album is a homeopathic remedy that is also incredibly commonly used for allergies that cause itchy nose, itchy eyes, runny nose, etc. If arsenicum album doesn't help, you can try Natmure cell salts. Cold sores, the recurrent one, and the ones that appear through stress, because of stress at the corner of the mouth, digestion, and people craving salt in their food all the time need to take Natmure, because this is the only, Natmure in cell salts is the only way that our body can absorb salt. So craving salt all the time, or salty food, or crisps, or chips and things like that, is a sign that you might be a bit deficient in salt. So taking the cell salt will be able to balance your the quantity of salt that you need. Irregular periods, blood circulation, again, cold hands and feet, nausea in pregnancy, during nursing, for example. You can take Natmure together with silica. The number 10 is natrium phosphoricum, which is phosphate of soda, which is a natural anti-acid and pH balancer. So its main function is really to help with digestion. So, if you have acid or GERD, it helps. It also helps to break down lactic acid. And so, after exercise, with the accumulation of lactic acid, and, that's how you get a lot of pain the following morning when you get up. It does prevent this inflammatory conditions in the joints and the muscles. So digestion issues, definitely GERD, regurgitation, stomach ulcers, all the conditions where the food is not properly digested or broken down, and there is a sensation of acidity in the stomach, or it comes up through the esophagus. So you can take NatPhos before each meal, or if you've eaten too many sweets and you find that you feel that acidity building up in your stomach. This is obviously for children. So before sending your child to a birthday party, you can give them natrium phosphoricum, because that will prevent that that symptom. It's also very good for people who are trying to quit smoking, particularly if you combine NatPhos and NatSolve in combination. And again, addiction of any kind, I would definitely advise you to see a homeopath. However, if it's something like you want to try and quit smoking and you're not on 40 a day, but you want to quit, yeah, that's cell salts are a good place to start. Joint pain, so arthritic pain, because it does break down the lactic acid, so it prevents inflammation. So if you have a problem with joint inflammations, NatPhos is a good remedy to start with. And also Candida. So if you have vaginal thrush, which is caused by too much acidity, NatPhos can help to rebalance the natural body pH. Number 11 is natrium sulfuricum, which is sulfate of soda. And this is a cell cleanser, particularly of the liver. And it helps the liver and the pancreas function. So it is a very good support cell tissue remedy for if you have diabetes, for example. And of course, this is not a substitute for medical care or therapy, or if you are on medication, but it is definitely a very good support because it will help the liver and the pancreas do their job and detox. Okay, but they're also good for in cases of flu, or in cases of anxiety, together with Califos and Calcifos, or Natmur, depending on the symptoms that you have. They can be a very good natural tranquilizer, so just to help you relax. And number 12, the last but not least cell salt, is silica, which is a fantastic polycrest. Silica is silicon dioxide, and it's one of the most common minerals that make up the crust of the earth. So it's literally everywhere. And it is also very important because it makes up our bones, our teeth, our hair, our skin, our nails. It's absolutely everywhere. It is a slow acting remedy, but it's very, very effective as a general cleanser as well, because it gets rid of anything that technically doesn't belong to our body. So this is why, even as a cell salt with very low potency, this is not a remedy to give if you just had implants, like hip replacement, for example, or, pins in your knees, metal pins, things like that, because silica might cause the body to reject it. But other than that, it is great when you have had a lot of antibiotics, for example. It's great to help the body get rid of what doesn't belong, because we typically, and I'm not against antibiotics, sometimes you need them because you need them, but we typically get prescribed way too much, more than we need. And so silica can really help detox our system. So silica is a good cell salt, is a good remedy for anybody with a delicate constitution. And that can be children, that can be elderly people, that can be just anybody who is very delicate, delicate constitution that catches cold. If you catch colds and coughs or any bug that's going, you're very skinny, you don't put weight on easily, you catch sore throats very often, your tonsils tend to swell up often when you catch a cold. So these are the things that make me think of silica every time. It's typically children, but that doesn't mean that adults cannot have a constitutional remedy in silica. Lung conditions, repeated boils or fungal infections of the skin, or particularly of the nails, things like athlete's foot, so infections that are recurring, or ear infections, for example. So silica really is one of the most versatile. And of course, if you break your bones, if you need to strengthen your bones, silica is definitely one of the remedies that I would put in a remedy mix to help strengthen the bones, together with other cell salts for the connective tissues like calcifos, calcarea fluorata, and so on, for the tendons, and so on. So this is all the 12 cell salts. It's really an overview. If you want to, and I know that if you have not read about them, or if this is the first time that you are learning about tissue salts, it can be a lot to take in. So if you want to know more, or keep the information with you, I have an ebook that you can find on my website. So you can take it from there. It's a 26-page booklet and it's in PDF, and you can find it on my website, homeopathyheal.co.uk. I will put it in the chat. And it's under education. Here we go. So, let's see. Yeah. Okay. So this is it. Okay, so this is everything from me. Do you have any questions after this? Hi, Yanni. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. You were talking earlier on about crushing some of the granules into cream. So what is some of? How much are you talking about roughly?
I would say two tablets, and it depends on, you know, if it's how big is the surface of the skin. But 2 tablets crushed in a little bit of cream. And typically I use calendula cream because I always have some calendula cream in the house. But if you have arnica cream, so it's still natural homeopathic, so you just mix it in, and it helps with pain as well.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Interesting. Okay.
Any more questions? Okay. Okay, so if there are no more questions, thank you very, very much for staying this long and listening. And if you want to contact me, my website is homeopathyheal.co.uk, or you can find me on Facebook, Homeopathy Heals. Oh, you're so welcome, Jolene. And yeah, you're all super welcome. And yeah, and you can find this the recording. I will put it on my YouTube channel, which is the Academy of Evolutionary Homeopathy. So it will be there, available to everybody. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a great week.